A Silent Voice is one of the best movies to have ever been created, and it's not just my personal opinion, but there's also people out there who state that this is one of the best movies to ever exist, even though there are some people who aren't huge fans of anime movies, and heck, there are even people who aren't huge fans of anime as a whole. They still have stated a lot of positive things when watching this movie, and that's really good because it just goes to show us just how much of an impact it has gotten to a lot of people, and really just how memorable it has become. The music, the voice acting, the visuals, everything about this movie is just simply a masterpiece. And of course, this also includes the story in and of itself. This movie heavily focuses on redemption, forgiveness, and even just simply loving yourself. There's a lot of things that a lot of people can relate to this movie, and this is because of its cast of characters as well. And I can go on and on and on about what makes this movie truly great, but today's video is going to be something specific about this movie. More specifically, it's going to be a character that I consider to be one of the worst characters in The Silent Voice. Now, when I say worst character, I don't mean that they were poorly written or they were just unnecessary to the story, because that's not really the case. When I mean worst character is that this character's personality and overall ideals and just simply their mindset is very terrible in many different ways. And I know some people are going to think I'm going to be talking about Ueno in the series, which, don't get me wrong, I think Ueno is not a great person as well, because I mean just simply what she does in the movie just really showcases what kind of person she truly is. But at least with her character, she is honest with how she truly feels and how she acts towards people. Like, she doesn't hide it or pretends like she's this saint. No, she's oftentimes very clear on the kind of person she is. But there is in fact a character in this series that is the complete opposite of Ueno, where instead of being honest with herself, she is in full denial and believes that she can't do anything wrong and that she's never done anything terrible to anyone in her life. And this is none other than the character known as Kawaii Miki, a character who can't really accept reality most of the time and believes that she is a perfect person that can't do no wrong. Now, the reason why I'm saying this, because if you have watched the movie, you would know that in the beginning, Ishida, this being the main character, was not a great person, as during elementary school, he was a bully who bullied a disabled person that is known as Shoko, who was not only deaf but also had problems speaking properly, and she became a target of Ishida's bullying. But it wasn't just simply him. There were other characters that were also involved in the bullying as well. One of them was Ueno, which is the reason why many people don't like her, and Miki was one of those people as well. Now, to an extent, she wasn't doing as much bullying as the other members that were involved, but the fact that she proceeded to not take action to prevent Shoko from being bullied and proceeded to just simply go along with the crowd, it makes it very clear that Miki was involved in the whole situation. And even though she didn't do as much bullying as the others, she was perfectly fine seeing another person get bullied as long as her reputation wasn't ruined. But of course, as time went on and the bullying got worse, it got so bad to the point where Shoko transferred schools, and the person who got blamed for all of this was Ishida. And after this, his life completely changed. He was not only treated as an outcast, but he was also ridiculed himself. And over the years, Ishida quickly realizes how much of a bad person he was when he was a kid and deeply regrets everything he did to Shoko. So one day when he sees her once again as she's all grown up, he's determined to redeem himself and actually have a good relationship with Shoko. Not only does he show Shoko that he's able to use sign language to communicate with her, but he also shows her how he deeply regrets everything he did, and he starts to spend more time with her, showing that he is in fact changing, how he's not the same person that he was in elementary school. But of course, things wouldn't be easy, as this is a hurdle that is very hard to overcome. And in these parts, it really just shows us how certain characters have changed and how certain characters have not changed. While Ishida is trying to make a change and redeem himself and become a better person, Miki, on the other hand, is the complete opposite. Now, on the outside, it seems that Miki is very reasonable, very kind, and can't do anything wrong. However, Miki has one problem, and it's the fact that she is obsessed with her image. Now, it's not bad to care about your image, because obviously a ton of people care about how other people think of them and how other people view them as a person. But in Miki's case, it's a very unhealthy side of it, because Miki really tends to always make sure that she really has a perfect image no matter what. And this includes not even taking responsibility responsibility for any wrongdoing she has done. Miki lacks self-awareness. She doesn't see the flaws in her behavior and thinks that what she is doing is completely fine and that there's no issues whatsoever. Because every time she is reminded about the past, more specifically the bullying that Shoko had to deal with, she always tends to make herself the victim and tells everybody that always mentions it that she did nothing wrong, and believes that anybody that is even saying that she was involved in that situation is just simply fabricating lies, which is kind of ironic coming from her, considering that she too also fabricated lies to make herself believe that she is a good person. I think you can basically classify Miki as a very narcissistic, egotistical individual, because while she isn't being rude about it, it's very clear that it bothers her a lot whenever people talk about the past and whenever people bring her up on a very unfortunate situation, because once again, Miki cares about her image. So if people around her were to find out that she was involved in the bullying of a person that was not only disabled, but it got so bad that she had to be transferred from schools, then obviously this will hurt her image, and obviously the people that support her and are kind to her will probably treat her differently if this information got out. Not to mention that while she doesn't really express it too much, she seems to have an interest in one particular person, and this being Satoshi Mashiba. Now, out of all the characters in this series, it seems that this person is the person that she's trying to get close to the most. While it's not specific in the movie, it is more specific in the manga, where we come to find out that Miki tends to always hang out with this individual before and after school. Not only that, but she seems to have a habit of always agreeing with everything he says. Anytime she has an opinion, she's very quick to agree with that opinion that he said. Despite her always trying to be around him, it doesn't seem to bother Satoshi whatsoever, and in fact there are moments in which it reveals that he also has a habit of defending her, which is something that Miki uses to her advantage, because that's just simply the kind of person she is. This is a very interesting part of her character, because later on Satoshi tries to be friends with Ishida and Shoko, and she's right there to also join the group as well, which really makes you wonder that if it wasn't for Satoshi trying to be friends and trying to build some sort of relationship with Ishida and Shoko, would she have actually done it, or would she have simply distanced herself and not tried to form some sort of connection with them? It really just greatly shows us how much of an influence Satoshi has on some of the actions that Miki does. It's very clear that Miki wants this person to always be around her no matter what. This person means a lot to Miki, and if she were ever to lose this person, then it's probably going to be something that's very hard for her to move forward to. And I think the scene that makes it very crystal clear is the moment between Ishida and Miki, in which Ishida talks to Miki, asking her if she has ever talked about the past to Satoshi. This will lead to Miki being defensive, and in order to save the image that she's been building up, she throws Ishida under the bus by telling the class about Ishida's past and the kind of person he was in elementary school, telling everyone that he was the one that bullied Shoko, telling everyone the past that he's been so desperately trying to move on from it. And it was this particular moment that made me realize just how much of a terrible person Miki is. The fact that she was willing to throw Ishida under the bus to save herself really makes it clear that she has no problems hurting other people as long as she's fine. As long as everything about her is fine and nothing of hers is destroyed, she has no problems hurting others and has no problems how other people view that person once she reveals everything about that individual. And I think that's really the most disgusting thing about this. Even though this clearly affected Ishida, and this clearly was something that he was not expecting for Miki to do, during the bridge scene where everyone was there, including the people who used to bully Shoko, Miki is still defensive and even argues with Ueno, stating that they should not be the ones that should take the blame for what happened with Shoko. This leads to Ishida lashing out to the people around him because he's just simply tired of always having to deal with the past, and he's tired at the fact that he's always seen as the one that should be taking the responsibility for what happened with Shoko, even though there were other people involved, and even though there were some people who, yes, they didn't do too much terrible things to Shoko, they were still involved in some sort of way. This includes Miki as well, but he's just simply so tired of seeing this person always pretend like she did nothing wrong and always having to take the blame for everything. It's no wonder why Ishida was just simply tired of having to deal with this on a daily basis. I think the highlight of all this is that when you compare to the actual victim, this being Shoko, the person that was bullied by them, Shoko never shows any resentment to anybody who bullied them. She unfortunately has a habit of blaming herself for the entire situation. Now compare that to Mickey, the person who is actually in the wrong, victimizing herself and blaming everybody else. I think these two parallels just greatly shows the kind of people that we are dealing with. Shoko, the person who has every right to be angry at these people, is choosing not to because she feels like some of the things that happen is her own fault, when of course that is not the case, because in the end of the day, Shoko is still a victim, and obviously these people, what they did is still something terrible to do to anybody, no matter what kind of person they are. And Mickey, instead of accepting responsibility and moving on, just like the other characters in this series, Mickey is still stuck in the past. Mickey is somebody that can't confront their past, and is somebody that no matter what other people tell them, they just won't simply listen. They won't even hear what the other person has to say because it's not fitting to their ideals or their versions of reality, which is unfortunate because sadly there are people like Mickey in the real world. There are people who have done a lot of terrible things, but to this very day they still believe that they are the victim. They still believe that they should not face any responsibility whatsoever. And in fact, just like Mickey, some people tend to always change reality and believe that what they did was in the right, whereas the other people are just simply crazy for telling them that what they did is wrong. And even towards the end of the series, there's never a moment in which Mickey reflects on what other people said and sees it from their point of view as to why certain people don't view her as this perfect individual or this angel that can't do anything wrong. But that never really happens, and that is something that is very realistic. There are some people that will never change. You can't change their mindset, you can't change their ideals, you can't change the way they view life. That is something that is very hard for some people to realize, and that's exactly what Mickey is. Somebody that till the very end can't face reality, and because of that, that's why she is never going to be able to have a very peaceful life. She's always going to have to find a way to convince herself that she did nothing wrong. I know people tend to always hate on Ueno because of everything she did, and don't get me wrong, she isn't perfect, and obviously that is something that is highlighted a lot in the movie and in the series as well. But at least with Ueno, she came to the realization that she was in the wrong too. She wasn't a victim. In her apology, she states that the past is in the past, and that even though she still has a few dislikes towards Shoko, she's not gonna get mad if Shoko has a few dislikes towards her, because well, that was bound to happen considering everything that has happened between them. And I think that just really shows us that while Ueno hasn't technically changed all that much, she is facing reality, unlike Mickey. So overall, who is Kawaii Mickey? Well, she's a narcissistic, delusional, egotistical individual who is perfectly fine throwing people under the bus, making herself look good in every possible way she can, even though she isn't perfect at all, has no problem manipulating people into believing that she's a victim and that she had nothing to do with the entire situation, when that is far from the case, will never accept reality, and hides behind a mask just to make herself feel better. And that's where I'm going to end today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.